3 bone-chilling truths that'll make you rethink sleeping with her at 3 a.m. Carl Jung reveals. The clock struck 3, shattering the silence like a glass dropped from a height. The moonlight poured through the window, casting ghostly shadows across the room. There was something unsettling about the soft whispers of the woman lying beside him. She had a way of drifting in and out of dreams, her features shifting like smoke. For Danny, the night was eerie, and every tick of the clock gnawed at his nerves. Little did he know, Carl Jung had once claimed that dreams could reveal darker truths about our deepest fears. An unshakable thought slithered into his mind: were the things that lurked in the shadows beneath his bed waiting until he was vulnerable? He felt a tightening in his chest as he recalled tales of sleepless nights. Stories where people were haunted by their own subconscious. And it wasn't the shadows he feared the most, it was what lay between them, twisting truths into nightmarish figures. His heart raced as her eyes fluttered open, revealing depths of darkness. "What if I told you," she murmured, her voice sultry yet haunting, "that your nightmares are alive, that they can escape the confines of your mind?" A shiver crept down his spine. The comfort of the warm sheets felt like ice against his skin. Every instinct screamed for him to escape, yet curiosity bound him, pushing him deeper into this labyrinth of mystery. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. She smiled cryptically, causing the hairs on his arms to stand up. Dreams have a way of warning us. Her gaze flickered, and the shadows around her seemed to twitch. Was it the trick of the light, or was there something else? The air thickened, a palpable tension hanging between them. His curiosity warped into dread. What was she hiding in those haunting depths? He hesitated for a moment, then leaned in closer. The terrifying truth waited to be uncovered, but was he ready for what he might find? Danny swallowed hard, his pulse pounding in his ears. The words hung in the air like thick fog, blurring clarity and enveloping him in confusion. He wanted to reach out, touch her shoulder, maybe pull her close, but something primal within him recoiled. The shadows around them danced with a life of their own, each flickering movement whispering horror-stricken secrets. "What do you mean?" he managed to whisper, his voice barely above the sound of his racing heartbeat. The veneer of composure was slipping, and panic clawed at his throat. She leaned forward slightly, her breath warm against his ear, yet her words felt like ice. "Your fears have faces, Danny. They wake up at this hour, when the world sleeps. You need to face them before they claim you." Her eyes sparkled with something that frightened him even more than the thought of nightmares taking form. It was as if she reveled in the chaos simmering beneath the surface of his mind. A dread-filled silence enveloped the room. He tried to recall the last time he felt safe, or even sane. Memories collided in dizzying confusion, childhood fears of the dark, whispered phantoms named by those who had long since left. Each frightening recollection twisted around him like thorny vines. He glanced over his shoulder, half expecting his past to spring from the shadows and ensnare him. "Are you saying I could summon them?" His voice trembled, barely a whisper, but the thought terrified him. "Only if you allow them, Danny," she replied, almost too calmly. "They wait. They thrive on your doubt. You think they remain trapped in dreams? No, they're waiting for a window." She smiled again, a subtle tilting of her lips that seemed less inviting and more ominous. The shadows behaved, swirling closer as if echoing her words. "What if I don't want to know?" he stammered, growing aware of the bed's creeping chill. "Then you'll live in fear," she said with a nonchalance that unsettled him. "Running from your truths only allows them to grow stronger. You'll suffocate in their presence." Her words ignited a spark of rebellion within him. The idea of being housed within a suffocating cloak of terror gnawed at his instincts. He felt the weight of her gaze, heavy and penetrating, forcing him to reckon with the increasing dread pooling around him. "What do I have to do?" he blurted out, desperation tinging his tone. "Listen," she breathed, her voice dropping to a near-silent murmur. "Submit to your fear. Let it breathe, and in return you might just wrest control over it." With those final words, her expression shifted. She looked almost inviting, yet a shadow of raw malice lingered behind her eyes. A sharp pain sliced through his chest as everything around him warped. The walls groaned softly, flickering shadows looming larger. The subtle sway of the room felt like the world tipping off its axis. Danny's heart thudded uncontrollably, heavy with the weight of choice. Was he willing to tether himself to the unknown darkness? Was there any way back if he took the plunge? Before he could voice a response, a shattering sound echoed through the silence, like glass breaking. The room went still, as if holding its breath, and Danny's skin prickled with apprehension. "What was that?" he whispered, eyes darting toward the cracked door. She shifted, her smile replaced with an expression of genuine fear, a rarity in her haunting visage. "The portal-'s opening. You better choose quickly." Suddenly, a shadow flitted across the room, rushing toward them, its shape twisting, growing more distinct. Instinctively, Danny straightened, the cold settling deep in his bones. Could he dive into the darkness and fight, or had the terrifying truth already begun to claim him? As the shadow lunged, he could only brace himself for the impossible choice before him. The shadow raced forward, sharp and jagged like broken glass, and Danny felt time stretch in agonizing slow motion. He could see it now, a face, or what used to resemble one, twisted in a grotesque smile. Panic surged, but deep within, another pulse thrummed through him, a flicker of defiance against the rising tide of fear. He inhaled sharply, a sharp intake that rattled in his chest. "What do I do?" he cried out, seeking clarity in the oncoming chaos. "Embrace it," she shouted, her voice cutting through the dark. "Let it into your heart, Danny. Let it show you its true form." With those words echoing in his head, he felt an unexplainable compulsion. He shifted, feeling the weight of something heavy and indescribable in the air around him. Moments ago, he had been the frightened boy hiding under the blanket, but now there was a rush of reckless courage that surged through his veins. The shadow grew larger, morphing into swirling shapes that danced around him, fear, regret, and something unnameable all beckoning to him. Each pulse seemed to whisper his name with fervor, feeding off his doubt yet also offering him an opportunity. "Show yourself," he shouted, his voice cracking under the strain but brave all the same. The figure hesitated, its form faltering between angry tendrils and a semblance of humanity. Its mouth twisted into a sneer, revealing teeth that shimmered like shards of ice. The air crackled, heavy with tension as the shadows around him seemed to shimmer and dance, almost alive, responsive to his will, his growing defiance. "Do you believe?" the shadows hissed, their voices blending into a sinister symphony. "Do you have what it takes to face us?" "Believe in what?" Danny yelled, fists clenched. "You're nothing but my fears. You think I'm afraid?" With a jolt, he stepped forward, and the room suddenly erupted in a frenzy. The shadows lunged as if in response, their forms spilling forward like a flood. Danny felt their icy touch envelop him, threats crowding in on all sides. It was suffocating, but then he remembered. "I control you," he roared, anger lacing his tone. "You don't get to decide who I am." A crack of energy pulsed through him as the shadows momentarily faltered. But then they responded in full force, convulsing and rushing back at him, stronger and hungrier. The warmth of his confidence met their chilling embrace, and once again, he felt the foundation of himself quaking. The girlish form glowed faintly in the dim light, her eyes wide with awe and terror entwined. "Danny, you need to," but the words bleached from her mouth as a particularly fierce shadow emerged, its sharp edges glaring. Just as it prepared to strike, a blast of light surged from Danny's chest, bursting forth like a star that had finally found its voice. Light engulfed the shadows, and with a flickering hiss, they recoiled inward. "What's happening?" he gasped, feeling exhilarated yet terrified. "Your truth," she breathed. "Face it or reject it." Danny's heart thundered as he felt an unbearable tension building. The light and darkness collided, an impossible battle echoing in his soul. Could he truly confront his fears? With every ounce of his being, he yelled, "I am me." The shadows jerked violently, boiling in unrest. It was everything he had buried: his past, his regrets, the pain he thought long forgotten. Would this reckoning swallow him whole? As the noise crescendoed around him, and the figures tightened their grip, Danny had only a fleeting thought of hope. Maybe he could come out alive on the other side. But with that flicker of light, a sudden new dread filled the air, freezing the moment in place. A piercing whisper slithered through the chaos, chilling him to the bone. "Beware what lies beyond the light, Danny." And before he could comprehend what it meant, another shadow leaped at him, this time bearing a sharp and jagged grin that felt all too familiar. The shadow lunged with ferocity, its jagged grin twisting as it slashed through the light. The illusion of safety Danny had felt shattered like glass. Every fiber of his being screamed to flee, but he was rooted in place, a whirlwind of emotions battling within him. Panic clawed at his throat, threatening to choke him, but he swallowed it back. "Danny!" the girl shouted, urgency spilling from her voice. "Focus. Remember who you are." He clenched his fists tighter, teeth gritted. "I'm not going to let you win." He spat the words at the shadow, anchoring himself in resolve. The shadow paused, its form flickering like a dying flame. Doubt seeped into its expression, just as fear had once consumed him. In that brief moment, Danny seized his chance. "I see you," he shouted, fueled by a surge of adrenaline. "You're just a reflection of my darkest thoughts." The shadow hissed, lunging back, but in that moment of hesitation, he felt the light inside him expand, illuminating the corners of the room where despair lingered. "What lies beyond?" he wondered aloud. "Is it worse than what I faced?" Suddenly, a chorus of voices echoed through the dark, each one familiar. They tugged at him, memories of moments he had tried to bury. Laughter with friends, family hugs after tough days, heartbreak in quiet rooms. Each memory pressed against the walls of his heart, forcing him to acknowledge what he had pushed away. "I have to embrace them," he realized, a thread of understanding weaving through the chaos. All of it, with renewed determination. Danny closed his eyes, allowing the light in him to envelop those memories, both good and bad. He felt them merge into a radiant strength, a new kind of courage. As he reopened his eyes, the shadows recoiled, as if repulsed by the warmth rolling off him. "No!" the biggest shadow screamed, its jagged edges contracting as the light strengthened. "You cannot hide from us." "I'm not hiding. I'm confronting you," Danny shouted, his voice louder and steadier than before. With every heartbeat, he summoned more light. Brightness surged, and the world around him began to shift. Shadows bent and curdled, desperately clawing for dominance, but his essence remained unwavering. The girl's form flickered with golden hues, her eyes reflecting on mixed with relief. "That's it, Danny. Keep going." The room pulsed with energy. The shadows fought, wrestling the light, but it was like trying to outrun a rising tide. Suddenly, Danny felt something pull at him, not from the shadows but from deep within. His voice urging him to dig deeper. What was it that he feared the most? Was it failure? Rejection? Loneliness? "Every ounce of pain has brought me here," he roared, letting his emotions surge. "And I won't let you take that away from me." As his words hung in the air, the shadows let out a howl of anguish. They twisted, spiraling faster and slamming into each other with a vengeance, the cacophony drowning out everything else. Everything he had avoided, everything he had thought was lost roared back, renewed and powerful. Then, in a blinding flash, the darkness ruptured, splitting open like a storm cloud. The shadows imploded, sucked into a void, their coldness sucked away by the light Danny had unleashed. The oppressive weight that had filled the room dissipated, replaced with a warmth that coursed through his veins. But as the last fraying edges of darkness slipped away, a heavy shadow formed at the center of the room. Beneath its coiling shapes, murmurs twisted like a fog. A deeper threat, something much darker. "Danny!" The girl gasped, her voice drowned in shock. "This isn't over." As the new shadow unfolded, revealing an ominous figure beneath, Danny felt a chill creep up his spine. This wasn't the end, but a mere prelude to the horror that awaited him. "Face it, Danny. It's only just begun." The heavy whisper echoed in his mind, an invitation dipped in dread. What was lurking behind this shadow? What other truths had yet to be unveiled? The figure at the center of the room began to take shape, its form shifting like smoke caught in a windstorm. Danny squinted, his heart racing in tune with the frenetic energy around him. The warmth he'd summoned was waning, fighting to hold back the impending cold that seeped from the new shadow. "Stay close," the girl shouted, but her voice trembled, a crack that echoed the fear creeping into Danny's own heart. Just as he thought he couldn't feel more terrified, the figure completed its transformation. A face emerged, familiar yet twisted in ways that made his stomach churn. It was a distorted reflection of himself, an abomination of his own worst traits and insecurities. The eyes glowed with contempt, mirroring his self-doubt, his regrets, the moments he had let fear dictate his actions. "Look who finally decided to show up," the dark version of Danny sneered, its voice a chilling blend of mockery and allure. Danny's breath hitched. Every part of him wanted to recoil, to run from this grotesque representation. But he forced himself to remain still, to fight through the paralyzing fear that threatened to drown him. "I won't let you control me," he shouted, sweat beading on his forehead. The shadow laughed, a sound that echoed in the vast emptiness of the room. "Control? You think this is about control? I'm merely here to remind you of who you truly are. The coward. The quitter." With each cruel word, it punctuated its mockery with images, flashes of failure playing through Danny's mind like a broken reel. Every disappointment, every time he turned away from a challenge sheared against his psyche. Memories bled through his resignation at the job he quit, the girl he never had the guts to ask out, the friendships he let slip due to insecurity. They all spiraled around him, clawing at his heart. "Stop it," Danny screamed, clawing at the air like it might somehow pull him away from the torrent of darkness. "Stop reminding me." But the shadow only leaned closer, its mocking grin widening. "You're only as strong as your worst moments, Danny. And look who's here now." The girl beside him gasped, her eyes darting between Danny and his dark replica. "Danny, you have to fight back. Remember the light." In that instant, something ignited deep within him, a flicker of rebellion sparked by defiance. "I'm more than my mistakes," he yelled, channeling his anger into the light inside. "They don't define me." The dark figure shrieked, a banshee-esque wail that reverberated through the air. Danny could almost feel the ground beneath him shake with its fury. "No, you are a prisoner to your flaws." Spat. "You will never be free." No, Danny shook his head, narrowing his focus. "I can rewrite my story. I choose who I want to be." As each word flowed from him, bright beams of light burst forth, casting away the shadow with a fervor that made his heart race and his spirit soar. The room brightened again, but he could still feel the icy grip of the shadow's words lingering. It clawed at his resolve, desperate to take root somewhere inside him. "Danny!" the girl cried, her eyes wide, knowing the battle wasn't over yet. "You have to believe it." He gritted his teeth, summoning everything he had. The warmth within him surged, pushing back against the icy fear. "I am more," he roared, letting the light explode around him. But just as he felt the shadows retreat, the darkness coiled around him like a serpent, whispering words he dreaded. "You think this is your triumph? There are deeper truths to uncover." In that unsettling moment, as the light thrummed around him, the darkness promised something even more terrifying, something that left a sickening heaviness in his gut. Outside the breach of light, a sinister pulse throbbed, hinting that horrors lay undiscovered as if the very fabric of his reality was shifting, revealing a new threat lurking beyond the veil. "What do you want from me?" Danny said, his voice wavering, caught between defiance and fear. The shadow smiled, a grotesque joy dancing in its eyes. "To show you the truth you cannot bear, but you will face it. It's only just begun." A chilling silence enveloped them as he braced for what was to come. Uncertainty gnawed at his insides, a prelude to the dark revelations waiting to be unleashed. What haunting truth would transgress the boundaries of his fears? What lay on the other side of this battle? Danny's chest heaved as he stood at the precipice of his mind's nightmare, the light swirling around him, faltering against the relentless grip of the shadow. Every pulse in the air crackled with tension, vibrating with an energy that seemed both alive and sinister, akin to a storm brewing on the horizon. "Danny, focus." The girl's voice shattered the silence, her urgency freezing him momentarily. Her eyes were wide, radiating fear mingled with fierce determination, alight in the encroaching darkness. The shadow surged forward, engulfing the flashes of warmth that still lingered in the air. "You think you can outshine me, little boy?" it taunted, its voice a hiss that wrapped around Danny like a tightening noose. "You're fooling only yourself. The truth is, every light creates its own shadow." With every word, memories flared back to life, the moments that had shaped him, the years spent buried under the weight of what could have been. He clenched his fists, fighting the suffocation of despair rolling from the shadow, but the memories were merciless. They seeped into the light, threatening to snuff it out completely. "Fight, Danny!" the girl yelled, desperation breaking through her voice. "Use your light." He felt a surge of something deep within, a flicker of hope battling the horror. "I am more," he bellowed again, not allowing the shadows to drown him in the pit of fear and regret. The light pulsed around him, brighter this time, struggling against the darkness that sought to consume him. But just as the illumination gained ground, the air shifted, chilling him to the bone. A more profound truth unfurled beyond the screaming echoes of rejection. "You really think you're special?" The shadow sneered, a twisted smirk playing across its lips. "Everyone hides their true self, Danny. Everyone has things buried so deep they die before letting the world see." Images of others sprang to mind. The phony smiles of classmates, the hollow laughter of coworkers, friends' betrayals that still haunted him. The murmurings of shared secrets roared back, sharp and poignant, reminding him of the masks people wore. Was he truly any different? "Stop it." His own voice almost cracked, the impossible weight of doubt creeping back. "I'm not like that." "Oh, but you are. Just look around." The shadow gestured, and Danny saw familiar faces that echoed his past, more distorted than he remembered. Every failure, every rejection. "You can't hide the truth from yourself. You're just another lost soul." As a chill swept through the air, he could sense the girl beside him shrinking under the weight of the shadow's words. The energy in the room pulsated with a darker rhythm, and Danny's stomach churned. Was the shadow right? Was he truly just a coward in disguise? "No!" he shouted, shaking his head violently as if in denial could erase the truth. "I won't let you define me." But the darkness pressed in tighter, the light buckling under the mounting fear. "You can't fight what you are, Danny. It's time to face the true horrors lurking in your spirit. You may be light now, but every flicker has a price." The tone shifted, morphing from mocking to something eerily inviting. "Are you prepared to learn the secrets of your own soul? Will you embrace the chaos hidden beneath the surface? Your real journey is just beginning." The room began to warp around him. The walls twisted and pulled, and the ground felt like it might give way at any moment. Horror and fascination clawed at Danny's mind, yet determination pulsed with every heartbeat. "Decide, Danny. Will you accept the darkness or forge ahead?" The air thickened as the light danced uncertainly, wavering like a dying flame. The shadow loomed more massive than before, its pull growing overwhelming. "Choose!" it roared as he felt his breath hitch, heart pounding a wild rhythm in his chest. In that treacherous moment, surrounded by whispers of despair, he had to decide. What lies lay beyond the dark revelation? And could the light shimmer through the cracks of his deepest fears? Danny's heart pounded as he weighed the Shadow's words. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, a timer ticking down to an unknown fate. He could feel the pressure wrapping around his mind, squeezing tighter with every second. Desperation clawed at him, and he wanted nothing more than to scream, to fight back against the encroaching dark. The girl beside him reached out, her trembling hand overlapping his. "Danny, please, don't listen to it. Remember who you are," she implored, her voice cracking faintly over the ominous tone of the shadow. For a moment, those words lit a spark in him, a brief flicker in the depths of gloom. "Who am I?" he whispered, feeling lost. The question echoed in the vast, distorted landscape they stood in, the essence of it hanging heavy in the air. He could hear the shadows leaning in, ready to pounce on his uncertainty. "Face it. You're just like the rest of them," the shadow hissed, a malicious glee in its tone. "Incapable and broken. Embrace it. It's the only way to truly see yourself." "No," Danny shouted, the sound erupting from deep within. His determination surged. "I'm not like you." With a fierce shout that echoed through the warped spaces around them, he felt the light within him explode, pushing back against the shadow as if it were a tangible force. The air crackled, and he could see it, the essence of his spirit clashing against the dark. But the shadow only twisted, reshaping itself like a living thing. "Are you certain of that? Or are you just clinging to a facade? Look deeper, Danny." With an awful crunching sound, the walls around him seemed to bend and crack, revealing flickers of memories that taunted him. He saw himself in ugly moments, times he had faltered, moments of weakness, when he had prioritized shadows over light. Pain gripped him as he witnessed the betrayal of friends, the times he had let the darkness creep into his heart. "Those moments define you," the shadow sang, growing, feeding off his doubt. "Let me show you the real you. The truth is a horror wrapped in darkness, like a rose with thorns. Will you pet it or flee? Get back," he shouted, trembling with anger and fear, thrusting his hands forward, willing the light to push back harder. It pulsed around him, a faint warmth against the chilling air. But before he could regain control, the ground split before him, swallowing a piece of his confidence. "Danny!" the girl shrieked, jerking his focus. He turned to her, seeing not just desperation, but something more, a fierce will. "You have to fight this together." He nodded, their hands intertwined. Together, they twisted against the pull of the abyss, their combined light merging into a blinding blaze. "Trust in each other. Let the light show you the way," she shouted, and in that moment, something raw and powerful surged. Suddenly, the landscape around them transformed. Colors swirled together as the shadows recoiled, but it wasn't enough. The deeper truth still beckoned him, whispering the last few secrets he had buried. "What if it's all true? What if I can't rise above it?" The thought was a wisp of doubt, but it clawed at him like a monster in the dark, as the shadow exploded with laughter. "You can't escape what you are, Danny. What will you choose? Step into the shadows and uncover the hidden truths, or stand and fight, risking everything?" As the air electrified, the ground beneath them suddenly gave way. They were falling, plummeting into a storm of memories. Danny could feel the light flickering, struggling against the chaos that enveloped them. Desperation flooded him. He couldn't just surrender now. "Danny, believe in the light," the girl's voice called, and he reached for her, spiritual tether pulling them closer even as the darkness rippled around them. But suddenly, a vision crashed into his mind, an image so powerful, it took his breath away. He saw the truth of his soul, tangled up in darkness but still shimmering with potential. Pure fear wrapped around him, tightening its grip as he cried out, "What lies beyond this darkness?" In that moment of hesitation, the hard truth crashed into his heart. To accept himself fully could lead down a path he never imagined. Was he brave enough to uncover what lay beneath? Or would the shadow extinguish the light forever? Falling. It felt like an eternity, the rush of air whipping past them as memories swirled, each one like a dagger, jagged and unforgiving. With every flash of a past regret, Danny felt the weight of 100 shadows pressing down on him. "Hold on," he yelled, his voice barely breaking through the deafening roar of their descent. The girl tightened her grip, and that familiarity offered a glimmer of hope amidst the overwhelming darkness. Time warped and twisted. Images ran past him, flashing like a broken film reel, his mom's tear-streaked face, hands plucking at his shirt during a remorseful revelation, the mocking laughter of classmates trampling over his dreams. The sick feeling of inadequacy churned in his gut. "Danny, focus," the girl shouted as the chaos threatened to swallow them whole. He saw her face again, bright and determined against the shadows threatening to encroach. "We're stronger together." Together, he echoed. The word reverberated in his mind, an anchor against the storm of despair. Their hands pulsed with mutual energy, infusing strength between them as they spiraled downward. With a newfound purpose, Danny closed his eyes and summoned everything he had. Memories of laughter, times they had triumphed, moments where light pierced the darkness, not just his light, but hers too. He felt the warmth of shared experiences blossoming within him. A sudden jolt shook him. They landed on solid ground, though he hesitated, trying to regain his bearings. The world around them morphed into a whirlwind of shifting colors, bright yet haunting. Shapes darted in and out, teasing the corners of his vision. The shadow loomed larger than life, a dark silhouette thrumming with chaotic energy. "Welcome back," it sneered, with an eerie sense of triumph. "Did you enjoy your fall? Or will you dare to face the truth this time?" Danny's heart sank, but he stood taller. "I won't let you win." He felt the pulsing bond between him and the girl. Her strength radiated, pushing the shadows back with sheer force. The shadow laughed, circling impossibly. "What do you think you will find in truth? Pain, despair. You will uncover things about yourself that even you wish to hide. Accept it. You're just a puppet in this play, controlled by your own darkness." "No," Danny shouted again, his voice unwavering. "I am not a puppet. I am the one pulling the strings. I choose who I want to be." The world shifted, walls of light began rising, encircling them, pushing back against the encroaching dark. Each barrier felt like a memory reinforced with hope, memories of love and determination overriding the echoes of failure. "You think this will save you?" The shadow hissed, frustration quaking its voice. "You'll fall back into despair. I will be waiting." "Not this time." Danny and the girl raised their joined hands, illuminating the space between them until it felt like a star was born. The glow pushed outward, each ray a challenge against the shadow's grip. But amid the powerful burst of light, a sudden pain stabbed through Danny's gut, a memory he recognized too well. The very moment of betrayal, when he turned away from the ones who mattered the most. The shadow fed off his hesitation, growing in stature, dark and ominous. "It's all in vain, Danny. Your darkness will rise again. He won't let you go." "Who?" he gasped. A deep laugh reverberated through the air, freezing him in place. "You'll find out soon enough." In that moment, doubt flared brightly within him, igniting a terrifying thought. If the shadow was telling the truth, what if he was more than just his struggles? As the glowing barrier flickered, he took a deep breath, grounding himself. The darkness wouldn't consume him. He refused to fall back into that pit. But as he braced against the tide of uncertainty, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that someone was always watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Danny," the girl whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "I think we need to." Before she could finish, shadows surged toward them, and Danny felt the ground beneath his feet tremble as if holding its breath. The world around him began to crack again. What secrets would be unearthed if he couldn't hold on? Would the shadows reveal his greatest fears? Or would they unearth something unimaginable, something that could change everything he'd ever known? The ground rumbled, fragments of reality splintering around them, and Danny felt an icy shiver race up his spine. Every crack opened a chasm that swallowed whispers of secrets long buried. Panic clawed at his throat as he fought to stabilize himself, feeling his pulse quicken against the rising tide of shadows. "Stay close," he shouted, his voice scarcely piercing the enveloping darkness. The girl remained by his side, eyes bright, determination etched onto her face. The unwavering bond they had forged coursed through him, but doubt seeped in like a chill in the air. What if the shadows were right? Getting lost in the fear only fed the darkness. Remember who you are, she urged, her voice breaking through the suffocating weight that pressed heavily on their shoulders. You've fought harder battles than this. He wanted to believe her. He fought to cling to that hope, but with every tremor beneath them, doubt clawed its way to the surface. This shadow was smarter than the others. It thrived on his weaknesses, his failures. Look, the girl pointed as the shadows twisted, forming grotesque figures that flickered and pulsed like a disturbed hive. With a collective breath, they stepped back. We can beat them. We have to confront what we've hidden away. Confront? Danny was wavering. Memories assaulted him anew, the faces of his past. Friends he betrayed. Laughter turned to silence. Pain erupted in his chest. Look at me. She grasped his face, forcing him to meet her gaze. You are not that boy anymore. We can face this together. Hesitating, he took a closer look at the shadows, their anger. Their pain mirrored his own. In that moment, he realized these shadows weren't just foes. They were fragments of him, shattered pieces of his past woven into this terrifying tapestry. And what if he swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat? What if they're here to remind me of who I was, to drag me back into darkness? The girl shook her head, urgency creeping into her voice. No, they're here so you can take control. They can't hurt you unless you let them. With a surge of clarity, Danny breathed deeply, pushing aside the rising instinct to recoil in fear. I refuse to let this happen again. In that defiance, Danny felt the walls of light surrounding them pulsate brighter, the space around his heart surging with warmth. He and the girl pressed forward, courage blossoming in their joined hands. Together, they pierced through the ranks of shadows, light shining fiercely against the encroaching dark. Face your truths, Danny, the girl urged, stepping into the darkness. Face them and this will end. The figures shifted, morphing into familiar shapes. The laughter of friends turned into murmurs of doubt. You don't belong here, Danny, taunted a figure he recognized, its voice echoing with a sinister familiarity. You've failed too many times. No, he roared back, feeling a surge of energy course through him. I am not defined by my past. With each step, he felt the weight of doubt lift slightly. However, as they forged deeper, he could still feel the eyes of something greater watching them, simmering with anticipation. The shadows ebbed and flowed, a tide of memories seeking to drown him in regret. We're almost there, the girl shouted. But just as they reached the heart of the darkness, a piercing scream echoed, an anguished cry that rang through the air. Danny! He froze, a chill cascading down his spine at the truth of the voice, a whisper from the shadows, clawing its way into recognition. Who is that? The girl's breath quickened. What are they saying? Terror wrapped its icy fingers around Danny's heart. The darkness lurched toward him, ready to unveil a fear he wasn't prepared to face, something buried deep in his soul. Danny, we need to fight it. But he stood paralyzed. The scream echoed again, urgent and desperate, pulling him toward an uncertain fate. What awaited him from the shadows? Would he find the strength to confront it, or would he be consumed by his fears, left watching in silence? Every second felt like eternity, as he hovered on the precipice of a revelation that could tear him apart. The air crackled and twisted around Danny as the shadow surged ahead, morphing into a whirl of fear and pain. He could feel the suffocating dread pulsing in waves, reminding him of every moment when he thought he'd failed. The agonizing scream reverberated again, echoing louder and more demanding, clawing at his very core. Danny! It cried, but this time he recognized the voice, his younger self. Shut up! He yelled into the abyss. A rush of energy surged through him, compelling him to stand firm. You don't get to control me. Run! The girl shouted, her voice cutting through the darkness like a beacon, anchoring him in the chaos. We cannot let it take you. Danny's heart raced. He tightened his grip on her hand and plunged forward, the shadows thrashing against their light. The distorted visions of his past merged into fragmented shapes, each twist reminding him of moments he wished he could change. But he wouldn't let them drown him. "I'm not afraid," he shouted, as the light intensified around them, cascading in a brilliance that challenged the encroaching dark. "Then face the truth," the shadow whispered, its voice now a low hiss, reverberating through the turmoil. "Can you truly confront what you've hidden away?" The ground shook violently, and Danny felt a pull, as if the very fabric of reality was trying to tear him apart. But through it all, the girl's steadfast gaze sparked a surge of courage in him. Together, he reminded himself, and as if by instinct, they began to weave through the serrated darkness, their combined light becoming a force of its own. "I see you," Danny screamed at the looming shadow, pushing against the tide as the light began to shatter its form like glass. "You're my past. You're not my future. No, you cannot escape your truth," the shadow howled, thrashing violently as Danny's declaration pierced through the air, each word resonating with defiance. "Your truth isn't my reality," he roared back. "I control my story." The light around them expanded, illuminating the twisted shapes with dazzling clarity. He felt their weight begin to lift as the shadow recoiled, blinking and pulsing as though taking in the vitality that flourished all around. It was faltering. "Keep going, don't stop," the girl urged, their hearts synchronized in rhythm, a pulse of hope reverberating through them. She stepped forward, her presence a sturdy wall against the dark. "You can do this. You're stronger than your doubts." With every ounce of conviction, Danny leaned into the warmth radiating between them. "I am not defined by my worst moments. I choose to rise." As their hands broke away from the shadows, the dark shrieked in agony. "You will regret this," it howled, but its voice lost power, its form flickering as the light seeped into its very being. "I don't think so," Danny grunted, releasing another burst of brilliant light that shattered the darkness into fragments. "You don't own me anymore." As the sound of splintering shadows echoed, a sudden silence enveloped them, heavy yet transformative. The world held still, a breath held in anxious suspension, while the remaining echoes of the shadows slowly faded away, revealing a clear path lit with resilience. "Is it over?" the girl whispered, hope and doubt fluttering in her eyes. Danny took a deep breath, feeling the lingering warmth of the light around him, a reminder that every scar bore witness to a story of strength. "I think it is," he said, more assured now. "The truth is that our past doesn't have to shackle us. It can be a mirror, reflecting what we've faced and conquered." The shadows had dimmed, but a faint sense of unease lingered in the air. Danny looked around, the remnants of the night flitting away, merging into the familiar contours of his room. "The horror that awaited me wasn't just confined to this space," he said, thinking aloud. "It's a part of living. But now I have the tools to face it. I have choices." The girl smiled radiantly, and for the first time that night, Danny truly saw her no longer a haunting presence, but a beacon of shared light in a world of shadows. "Thank you," he whispered. With a gentle nod, they reached for each other again, united by a bond forged through terror and resilience. The shadows had retreated, their reign over him broken, but the truth of their experiences lingered like a cherished secret. "Let us make new memories," Danny said, grinning, "ones that fill this room with light." As the morning sun began to break through the remnants of night, illuminating their sanctuary, they stood together, ready to embrace the world outside, hand in hand. The darkness could come again, but this time, Danny knew that fear would never define him. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see these powerful truths. Your support means everything. Only true fans understand how vital these actions are.